Hi guys, welcome back to Beyond the Net and Happy New Year. This is my first episode back on campus from break. Our break was like 5 weeks and I would still say it was too short because it's just is nice to be home and be in bed. I slept like for 14 hours every night I was home. I love my bed at home though. It's amazing. And it's bigger than my bed here. Obviously, like a dorm bed's not very big. And it was just nice to like turn over and not hit a wall. And just like having been here for so long, it felt so weird going home. Like I remember driving, I think I left like December 8th. And I remember driving and like for the first time in like 4 months, I saw like Nashville on like the highway signs, and I was still like in Knoxville. Like I saw Nashville and it was just so amazing. I was so excited to go home and just to see all my friends and my family and like to get to be back with my siblings. This is like the first time me, my sister, and my brother will have all been back in my house since I left for college, and it was just so nice to be back home and see everyone and just like get to not have any responsibilities. It's so hard. Like sometimes it's so hard being here because like I have so many expectations on me, just like everyone does being a student or being an athlete. And obviously the people that are both like have extreme amount of expectations on them, and like going home and understanding that you have none of that, it's almost like your body like shuts down because it finally is allowed to. It's finally like I can go to sleep. Like I cannot be anxious about waking up the next morning and like going to workouts or being scared I'm not gonna wake up, so you don't really ever fully go to sleep. Like for the first time in like 4 months since I had come in July, like I did not have to do anything. I don't think I worked out for like 2 weeks. And then like the first time I worked out, I did a hot yoga class at Core Power Yoga in Nashville. It kicked my butt. I was so sweaty. It was really gross. I also sweat really easily. So I was walking to class on Monday or Tuesday, and it was like 20 degrees, and I started sweating. So, you know, if that tells you anything. But I will say, like, being home it definitely had its challenges. Like, it was so weird to kind of see the life I had left there and like go and pick it back up. It just felt so different. Like I am in such a better space now than I was when I left. And so being around and seeing like almost like the world I had left behind was crazy to me. Like being back at my school to work out, or like seeing my old friends, or being in my room, like almost in a whole different headspace than I was before. And so to me, that's like a whole different world. Like the first time I stepped into my room, I just stared because I remember like all the hard times I had in there, especially right before I left. And like laying in bed too, I was like, dang, like I'm so grateful to be where I am and like to get to share what I went through, just because like I could remember exactly the kid that was like laying in bed like crying because she was just so anxious about like her next steps and her future. And now like I'm not that way. Like I remember laying in bed one night and thinking like I now can like start living. And I do feel like I missed so many years of my life because of my mental health. And like when I went home, I could so clearly see that. Like almost all my high school years, like I wouldn't go to things because I knew that like mentally I wasn't going to be able to handle it. So like once I became like a junior and a senior, I just like stopped trying. And so like I pushed people away. Like I stopped going out. Like I stopped like putting in effort to like make friends or be social or like keep connections. And it's like those are losses that I have, but at the same time, I can't like sit here and say that I would do anything any different because I know what it felt like to be in that position, and I know like all I was trying to do was survive and be able to like push through and get to the next day and like also like be able to still go to school and be able to still play volleyball whenever I could. And like those were the things I felt I had to do. So other things had to be put on the back burner, like had to be pushed away because I had things that I couldn't give up. In volleyball, I felt so trapped because I didn't want to be playing at that time, but at the same time, I knew I had to be playing because I was going to play at the next level. So that became a really negative place for me because of just that like mindset. Like school and club were hard. They were hard in different ways. And like, I don't think people quite understand that. Like, yes, I loved school volleyball because it was a lot less pressure and I felt a lot more connected to just like my school community. And club volleyball was hard because it was a lot of pressure. Just because of club is a lot of pressure for everyone. And it was just time consuming and like honestly just those smaller things. And so like getting to be back in Nashville and not have any of those hardships was like so freeing, and it just left me so in awe and grateful that like I'm healing, and like that is just a wonderful feeling to have. And I'm so excited that I can move on with my life now. Like I remember sitting at home and like I want to travel everywhere. Like I got so many opportunities at Harpeth Hall to travel to places, and I chose not to take them because I didn't think I was going to be able to handle that. And knowing that now, like, it makes me want to go to more places, like want to take more opportunities. Like I feel like so many opportunities passed me by because I wasn't willing to take control of them or to step out of my comfort zone because I already felt so vulnerable where I was. So like I want to go to Paris, like I want to go to Greece, like I made like a whole Pinterest board about traveling, and like I'm saving up money, and like it's just, I now feel like I have a whole life ahead of me, whereas before I didn't feel that way. Like I didn't feel like I had like so many more steps in life to take besides going to college. Like I'm gonna get married one day, I'm gonna have kids, I'm gonna travel and have amazing experiences, and like I'm fortunate enough to get to do all those things because of where I am now. And I'm so grateful that I pushed through, and it wasn't easy. And I think something I found out while being home is that like it's almost picking up your life where you left off, except I'm a different person now than the person that left that life. So it's like I have to pick up the pieces. And the whole time I was hurting, my main focus was like, you always hear the quote, the like hurt people hurt people. And I thought that I was trying so hard to not do that. I thought like if I just hold it all in, like if I don't like be a bad person, don't take out how I feel on other people, like all those things. And in the way I thought I wasn't hurting people meant I had to push those people away. And I think at that time, like that is what I needed to do. And I can't say I regret that or that I would take it back, because if put in that scenario again, I'm sure I would do the same thing. Like I'm sure a lot of people would do the same thing. But I will say, like when I got home, I found that people were not like as excited to see me as I thought, because I had spent a certain amount of time pushing them away, even when they were trying to connect with me, and even when they knew like I was struggling. And like specifically some of my club volleyball teammates, like I can think of like a handful of girls that like were really trying to connect with me and help me, and I thought it was better to push them away because I didn't want them to get mixed up in my life, how it was at that time. And so it's very frustrating because in my heart, like I was trying to do the opposite of that. I was trying not to hurt those people and not to just like take everything out of them. And to me, that meant like not even explaining to them what was going on, because of how like triggering that could be at that time. And it turns out like in trying not to hurt them, I hurt them anyway. And so I like to say, like, hurt people choose to hurt people, but I don't know if I believe that anymore because of how, like, I think every person hurts people. Like, I think unintentionally, intentionally, I think you're gonna have people in your life that are sometimes, like, not gonna be collateral damage, because that doesn't sound like the right word, but I think sometimes people in your life are just, they aren't gonna understand how you change and evolve. And I think for me, it was almost like such a drastic change. Like, I left home in one state of mind and I came back in a totally different one. And so I think me telling my story, like, it's been hard for people to understand that, like, the way I perceive things is just my opinion. And, like, it is my story. So, like, if you want to tell yours, like, feel free to do so. But at the end of the day, like, every person is going to make a mistake, and, like, but I can't apologize for unintentionally hurting those people, because I didn't choose to feel the way I felt. And if I apologize, that goes against literally what every therapist has ever told me, which is don't apologize for how you feel, because you didn't choose to feel that way. And so I was very conflicted, because, like, I reached out to some of those people, and, like, rightfully so, they were like, we tried very hard to, like, reach out to you, and, like, we're sorry it wasn't enough, blah, 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 and, like, things like that. And I was like, it's not that it wasn't enough, it was that I wasn't in the right space to accept help. And in, like, the nicest way possible, like, this is gonna sound so mean, honestly, but it's just not about, my story is just not about other people. Like, it wasn't fair at all that I pushed those people away, but at the same time, I can't apologize for surviving at that time. And so yes, like, I think it's funny because I always see TikToks about, like, people who protect their peace and, like, only have 1 or 2 friends left. And for so long I didn't understand that. Like, and now I do. Like, I'm choosing to protect my peace, and I guess at that time, even unconsciously, I was choosing to protect my peace. And in doing so, I'm not gonna apologize for the decisions I made at that time to help myself. And yes, like, it sucks, and I wasn't always the best person to, like, come to or talk to. Like, I took a lot of space, but I'm not gonna apologize for taking space. Like, recently not recently, and not that I've been talking to, like, a lot of girls that I played with in the past years, like, club, school, and, like, they were like, oh, like, we didn't want to tell you things because we wanted to give you your space. But then, like, I've been so conflicted because I've been thinking a lot about the fact that, like, what was I supposed to do then? Like, I'm not gonna apologize for taking space. Like, thank you for telling me now, and, like, I can apologize for the actions that hurt you if that was the case. But at the same time, like, recently, since I've been healing, people have been, taking space has become such a negative thing. And I totally understand why. Like, I totally understand, like, how they didn't want to tell me then, and now that I'm, like, better through their eyes, they want to tell me now. And yes, like, please, 100%, like, I'm not trying to be that person that shuts you down, but I'm also not going to apologize for taking space and, like, helping myself. And no one's asking me to at all. It's just, like, through, like, my eyes, it's starting to become such a negative thing, taking space, just because it's what everyone's been using as to why they haven't told me things. And, like, even my club director, when I talked to her, she was like, I'm so proud of you for finally telling your story. And, like, that was my club director, who I wasn't as positive about, like, my club experience. And she was like, I talked to her, she's just the most amazing person ever. And I talked to her, and she was like, I didn't take it that way because I know you, and I knew what you were talking about. And, like, and I also, some people just, I just want people to understand, like, me talking about club is not just 1 year. It's not just a couple people. Like, it is very generalized, and it's also my story and my truth, and I'm not gonna change that to, like, not hurt people's feelings. But there are people that I don't want to hurt everywhere, like in school and club, like outside and here in college. And it's like those people like know who they are and will continue to know who they are. And so I'm not really too worried about it anymore, just because when I talk about certain experiences, people would be mad if I was too specific, and they'd be angry if I was too general. So I think I've just like figured out how to pick and choose and like find my gray area almost, because it's hard because I'm trying to tell my story, but in my story there are obviously other characters. But why wouldn't I be the main character in my story? Like, I've never pled innocent. Like, I've never said that I didn't play a part in any like toxic relationship I ever had with any club or school team. And like, I will get to that. Like, I'll talk about club again. It seems like that like wound hasn't healed a lot, and I understand I brought it up because I wanted to talk about it, and like the only exception I'm gonna make to that is like my 17s year, and I will talk about that. But it is interesting to see, like, when you go back to the life you left behind, like the people that now want to say something about how you were, in a positive and in a negative way. Like my best friend at club, I played with her since I was like 13, I think, and I played against her 12s year because I was on the 2s and she was on the 1s team. And she's one of those people that, like, she stuck by me no matter what. Like, we are inseparable, and we will get back to being inseparable. She's all the way in Washington, though, right now, and she is doing amazing. And so, yes, there are positive things that come out of, like, dark parts in my life, and I don't ever want to roll over those, but at the same time, like, my story so far has been a dark space. And it is just, I'm just now seeing so much light that came out of that dark area. Like, I need to be able to sift through that and live through that as well. And so, like, healing has been really hard. Like, I feel like over season, I like was just so busy that I didn't feel like I was actually healing, like in the process. I always felt better, but like when I got home and like saw like almost all I left behind, like it definitely hit me more that I'm like healing and that I'm getting better, because I like spent a lot of nights like thinking about like the people I've spent time with and like I've experienced things with, and just like honestly how sad it was to like think back about myself when I was at that point in my life. And like I think a lot about myself from a vantage point of me still being a really little girl, because like I felt for so long that she was completely gone, and I feel her coming back now, and it just makes me so much happier to know that like that innocent kid that is like, I feel like the happiest version of any of us is in that girl or boy, and I can feel her coming back and like feel her like fire and adventure and just like wanting to jump into anything that's thrown at her. Like I can feel that kid in me coming back, and I feel like I lost her for so long. And I think when people lose that part of themselves, I think they lose so much like ability to see into the future, because when you're young, you want to grow up. And even though I would tell every kid like stay young for as long as you can, like I think that when you lose the younger part of yourself for a little bit, like it is very hard to keep moving, because that kid is just the brightest part of you, I believe. And I just have always thought so much about that throughout my years of like having a hard time and being in a dark space. Like I think about her all the time, and it makes me very sad to think that like no one warned her about what she was going to go through, and like no one helped her before to like prepare for it. And not that it'll ever happen that way, but I do think that like I want to apologize to her, even though like it's not my fault and it's not hers and it's not really anyone's. And I just wish, I wish if I could have gone back in time, the only thing I would have done was warn her. And I think going home, like, made me realize that, because, like, I spent so much time just, like, doing nothing, which was great, but that also meant, like, I thought a lot about everything. And I was faced with a lot of, like, definitely people that had things to say, like, positive and negative about, like, my life here at Virginia Tech. And which is great, like I love talking to people about it, but I will say, like, I have this, I hate it so much, but I don't know why, but I just, like, every person that I have a relationship with in one way or another, like, through my volleyball team, through school, like, I need them to like me, and I don't know why, like, I'm just such a people pleaser, I think, or, like, I don't know, but I have just found that, like, some people I just need to let go, and some people, like, if they're not going to put in their part of the relationship, like, why would I fight for that person? But I still do to this day. Like, I don't know how to not just let people not like me. Like, I have a personality that people are not going to like me. Like, I'm not someone that's going to stay quiet. I'm not someone that's going to stop fighting for themselves or fighting for the people they love, like, and that brings you lots of people that, like, want to not like you. And so, like, I'm not used to people not liking me. I mean, I'm used to people not liking me in that sense. But, like, for some reason, there are certain people in my life that, like, I have relationships with, and, like, will continue to have relationships with, and, like, I've hurt them, or we have had some type of, like, disagreement or something, and, like, I can't convince them that I haven't hurt them. Like, I'm not that type of person. Like, if you tell me I've done something to you that made you feel a certain way, like, I'm gonna apologize, and I'm gonna tell you that, like, if it's true, I'm gonna be like, I never meant it in that way. And, like, everyone I've ever met has been very accepting of apologies, and, like, vice versa. Like, I'm very accepting of apologies. And so, like, I think that going home, I spent so much time, like, trying to get those same people that liked me before to like me again. And I talked to my mom, and she was like, sometimes you just have to let people go because they're not on the same life path as you are. And that doesn't mean, like, either person's a bad person. Like, everyone I've met in my life is a good person. Like, that's no doubt. But I just have this urge to just, like, get people to like me, like, or to understand, like, why they don't. And, like, it is, like, specific situations, and it's so weird because some people I'll just be like, okay, you don't like me, like, that's fine. But other people that I know I'm gonna have to spend time with and, like, start to, like, build relationships within, like, I just can't handle it. I don't know why. Like, I just try so hard, and I'm starting to get better. I'm trying to get better, just being like, if they're not gonna put in their half of the relationship, then I'm not gonna work 10 times harder to get them to even look at me or talk to me or, like, do the bare minimum. And every part of me, like, fights against that because I don't even know why. Like, I don't care about not being liked. It is, like, the weirdest part of my personality because it, like, goes against every other part of me that's very, like, forceful and assertive. Like, this part is almost on the other side of the spectrum that, like, was just picked out, and, like, now that's a part of me. And it has been interesting to see, like, how that has evolved from going back home, because, like, those are people I have to rebuild relationships with, and, like, there are people I want to be rebuild relationships with, and, like, those people, though, are, like, also want to rebuild them with me. And I do think that, like, it's going to continue to be hard for me with these certain types of people that I just need to understand, or like I need to just like get them to like me, because I don't know why I should care, and not everyone's gonna like me. Like, not everyone's gonna like that I'm willing to tell my story. Not everyone's gonna like that I'm a college volleyball player. Not everyone's gonna like that I go to VT. Like, there are so many aspects of my life that someone's gonna choose to pick apart and choose to like make me feel small. And that's why I do things like this, because for the first time ever, like, I don't feel small. I feel very powerful and very large. I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like nothing can hurt me. Like, and that's not to say that I haven't been hurt since I've started healing, or that I haven't felt like I can't do something, but I will say, like, my confidence and my just like vulnerability in a positive way has gone up. Like, I'm proud to be vulnerable in some situations and to take on that situation, and then I'm also proud to speak my mind and stand up for other people. And I'm whoa, sorry guys, I have like a cold because it's literally 0 degrees here. But I'm proud to be that person, and I'm also proud to say that throughout this whole time, that has never changed about me. I have always been the kid that is gonna stand up for the people she loves. Like a teammate, a family member, like my best friends. Like, I will never sit back and watch people hurt the people I love without saying something. And I am proud to say that that has never changed or faltered, no matter how hard my life has been. And I will say, like, being back in Nashville really taught me that I don't have to step back into my old life, because that is what it is. It's the past. Like, it is my old life. Like, I'm starting a new one, and like, I'm bringing the village of people that helped me get to this new life with me, if they want to come, and if they don't, that's okay too. Like, everyone has their own life and their own focuses and purpose, and like, me saying that, like, I need everyone to like accept me and like me as I am is never gonna happen. And I have to learn to like understand that and be comfortable with that and like accept it for what it is, because I feel like I'm a very controversial person just in general. Like, I'm just like, I'm an introvert, but at the same time I'm an extrovert. Like, I'm just not afraid. I'm not gonna back down from like talking through things. Like, so many things can just be talked through. Like, they don't need to be a fight. Like, and I'm willing to have those conversations. And I've come to realize that like some people just aren't. Like, some people just want to hold a grudge, or like want to be mad at you, or like want to be immature. And I'm just like, okay, I just need to be like, okay, that's fine. Like, I've put myself out there, like, I have tried, and so you can't say I didn't try. You can't say I ignored you, and like, you can't say all those things. Like, if I've put in the effort to mend things, then it is no longer my fault if things go poorly. Like, I'm not gonna take that responsibility. I'm not gonna take that hardship and place it on my shoulder, because like, I have clearly put the effort in to help and like rebuild that. And that is something that I definitely learned while being home. Like, there are people that also want to go and build a different life, and like, going to college is it's a big step for everyone. And so sometimes people come back to the lives that they like left behind, and they don't want a lot to do with it. And maybe they want some people still with them, and then some people not. Like, I have to understand that like, everyone is changing over time, and it's not my place to like tell people not to, or to try and pull those people back to me, because sometimes it's just not about me. Just like, sometimes when I tell my story, it's not about other people. Like, I remember people telling me like, we tried so hard to get to you. Like, the coaches gave you like off practice, and they gave you so many opportunities. And I was like, it's not about them. It's not about you. Like, it was about how I felt at that time, and how how ability for that, but I am saying that when people give you reasons as to why you should have been okay at the time, it doesn't even make me mad, it makes me frustrated, because I'm like, you don't think I wanted to be different at that time? You don't think I wanted those small things? Like getting off practice, I'm sorry. No, that wasn't gonna help me. And I'm glad that I got that. Like, I'm not saying I'm not grateful for that. I'm saying like people using that as a reason as to why I should just be better and why I should be so grateful for like experiences I've had because of certain things people did. Like, that's not how it's gonna go. Like, I understand that there were a lot of people worried about me and just wanted to help. And I'm very grateful for those people. And I know those people know who they are. But at the same time, like, little things were never gonna help me. At the end of the day, like, I had to choose to take a step forward that I knew could either hurt me or that I knew could change my life. And that's as simple as it is. Like, at a given time, I'm not just gonna, like, there's no Band-Aid fix. Like, getting off of practice is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Like, it's helpful at the time, and it was, but it's not everything. And it'll never be everything. Like, even here at college, like, if I would need a practice off, like, that's not gonna help forever. Like, nothing's ever gonna help forever until I made a choice that I wanted to get help and I wanted to accept help. And at the end of the day, like, help for me in my life meant me putting faith in myself and in the people around me at that time, and knowing that no one was gonna let me fall by myself, and that no one was gonna not be there when I fell to help me up. Like, I needed to put faith in myself to help me. And like, no one else was gonna be able to do that. And I think that's what's so hard for people to understand, that like, me getting help was me helping myself. And I'm so sorry if that's just inconvenient, but that is how I needed help. And the people who supported me in telling me that they were there for me, that helped. It did. But at the end of the day, it's not what got me to where I am now. Like, I got me here. And as selfish as that may sound, like, literally, if you think that's selfish, go talk to any mental health professional and they will tell you that people work years to say that statement. I have worked years to say, once again, I have a cold, to say that statement. Yeah, so I still have a cold. And so, like, understanding that and like being back home, like, made me think so much about things like that, but it also made me really proud, because now that I'm back, like, I understand like how many steps I made over the 5 weeks that I was back at home, and like, holy cow, and like how proud I am of myself to be able to say that, like, I understand that I hurt people being hurt, but I'm not a bad person. I didn't do it intentionally, and they know that. But at the same time, like, I'm proud of myself to be able to not be too hard on myself for that. Because, like, I don't know if they could say that they would do anything different having been in my shoes. And I don't want any of those people to have to be in my shoes. Like, my life is not the hardest life out there. I'm sure people would give anything to have my life. I'm sure people would give anything to have other people's lives that they think look better in a heartbeat. But to me, in my story, my life was hard, and it is hard. And like, I don't know why some people just think that that is a negative thing. But I will say, like, when I started the end of break, like, it was hard to come back, but oh my God, I was so grateful that this was not my first time moving in again. Like, holy cow, driving back to campus after break, I was so grateful that I'm like, I'm not the new person anymore. I'm not like the youngest. I'm not moving in for the first time again. Like, this is a home I have here, and I'm so grateful that I'm no longer like a first timer or like a first time person. Like it took so much stress off that I was coming back and like I knew everyone and like, oh, it was just so amazing. But that being said, it was still very difficult and hard. And like I definitely miss my home. Like I miss it. And I think I have this thing about leaving places that I love. Don't know what it is. I've had it for forever. I remember I used to cry whenever like family members would leave my house, even if they like lived down the road, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's just like attachment issues, like God if I know. But there was positive things and negative things about leaving, just as there is about everything. Like I came back and I was anxious because like I'm once again back on campus and I have a lot of things I need to do and like places I have to be, expectations, but I am also very grateful that I get to have new experiences and like I'm so excited about my classes this semester. Like I can finally like dive into those and I feel like I can be a student more in the spring. But I'm also excited that like, well, not excited about our 6:45 workouts, but we're 6:30. Like I'm not excited about that, but I am excited to be back on like my normal routine, and it was hard to get back into it. Like I don't know how people like college is hard, guys. It's hard to like understand your routines and like understand how different they are from like school and home. And like transitioning I think is so difficult. Like at least for me, and it may not be for everyone, but it's really difficult for me to transition because either way, like from school back to home or from home back to school, like either way, it's hard just because they're so drastically different for me. And I think they are for everyone, but especially student athletes who like are always busy all the time. Like I think it's so hard to then go home and like have nothing to do. Like I was just talking to some girls on my team at lunch and they were like, oh, I don't like sleeping in that much at home because I feel like I'm not like doing anything or being productive. And like for some people that's so normal, but like at least for me and like for my team, like, and I'm all teams everywhere, like you're always doing something, especially when you're in season. So when you go home and like all of a sudden that's not true, like you don't really know what to do with yourself. And that can drive some people crazy. Personally, I slept a lot. That didn't drive me crazy. But I did like get that feeling of like just feeling unproductive and like I was like rotting in my bed, but I personally didn't mind it. But then coming back, I now had to get up early and like have all these things to do, and I like that and I don't like it at the same time. And so I think that transitioning is very difficult just because like it's almost like you go back to your comfort that you had for 18 years when you go back home. And then when you come back to school, it's like, even if you're a senior or a freshman, like you come back to something, a life that you're still building on becoming a home. And so I do think that that was really hard for me. But I am very grateful that I'm here in the new year, and I'm excited to see what happens this year, and like I'm excited to experience the spring as a freshman for the first time, and I think it's going to be great. And I'm excited to make more friends. That has been my not make more friends, just like be more social. In the fall, I was not very social, so one of my New Year's resolutions was to just like be more social or like try to hang out with people more, just because it's like my like instinct to just like go to bed. Just because why not? I love to sleep. But I'm gonna try and like be more social, like try to make friends outside of the volleyball team. Like, so I'm excited to see how that goes because, you know, it could go very poorly or very well. But yeah, there is a lot that I'm grateful for, and everything will be talked about when it's time to talk about it. And I do want the people that I love to know that I appreciate them and that I'm very grateful for them, and that I hope that everyone has an amazing new year and has an amazing start to 2024. And I just think it's great that we all get to be here together and do something that expresses how we feel and expresses how we feel about others. And so with that being said, next episode, I am hoping to have a guest. she is just a star. She is something. She's different than Hannah, who I had previously. She is our 6th year. She's literally a grandma at this point. She's played more volleyball than anyone I've ever met. She like medically redshirted one year and then also had a COVID year. So like, she's a 6th year. And she's an outside / libero. She's just everything. And she can set as well, so she's just perfect. And she's out of pocket, like me. So I'm very excited for you guys to get to hear from her and just hear us, bicker with one another. Her love language is like hating on people. It's not, but it is. For sure it is. She's definitely gonna bring up the time I passed out, I just know it. But yes, I'm really grateful just to be able to do this and to be able to like share my story no matter how many people listen to it or who is listening. Like, this is a platform I hope to have for a very long time and I hope to continue to build on. And so thank you guys and thank you for everything that you've done for me. And I'm hoping to see you guys in the next episode of Beyond the Net.